This video will show you how to replace the power steering return line on a Hyundai Sonata. This will be accessed from under your vehicle. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. The first thing we have to mention, we will have to make our way into the front of the vehicle, so make sure you're in a safe area to do so. We'll have the hood in the upright position. As you make your way along the passenger side of the engine compartment, this is where we're going to find our power steering reservoir. We can see it in between our washer fluid reservoir and our coolant reservoir. Looking in this area, we can see our fluid level. Let's go ahead and remove as much fluid from this area as possible. If you have a fluid extractor, go ahead and use that now. We can remove the cap, a close inspection. Once you've removed as much fluid as possible, temporarily reinstall the cap along the top. You don't need to turn it clockwise, holding it in position. We just want to rest it there so no debris makes its way into the system. At this point, let's make our way over towards the driver's side rear of the engine next. As we make our way down here, we can see where our power steering shaft leads down to the power steering rack. Along the back side here, we can see that there are several lines leading into the power steering rack. The line that we're replacing is this upper line here. It makes its way all the way down along that area. We'll be using a 17mm for our line fitting. Now before we remove this line, just keep in mind fluid will make its way out. Make sure you have a collection receptacle under this area. Now that I have it broken free, typically you can just turn these by hand. That looks good. Slide that right out of the power steering rack. You're going to find it does not make its way all the way out. We do still have some brackets holding this in place, so let's continue on to those next. As we make our way towards the center area here, we can see our exhaust pipe. We'll continue making our way down, and there's a metal shield down here which has to be removed so we can gain access to our first power steering line bracket. Now this is held in place with two 10mm bolts. Let's go ahead and remove the pair. One of our bolts right down here. There's our first bolt. A quick inspection will set it aside. Our next mounting bolt. With both bolts out of there, let's continue on to removing the shield, exposing our line. Now that we have the shield out of the way, we have a clear view of our first power steering line bracket leading across the top of the power steering rack area. This bolt can be removed from up top, but generally it's actually easiest to remove from underneath. You'll just have a little bit more swing with your tool. Now with that said, while we're up here, we're going to pause on this one, we'll do it from underneath, but for now let's make our way over towards the passenger side. We have another area here. As I make my way over towards the passenger side, I can see where my AC drip hose is. We need to dislodge it from its bracket. This bracket right here is pretty rotted, so I'm just going to go ahead and flex that out of the way. You can take hold of that hose, slide it out of position. Just a quick inspection of that. We're going to rest this aside. That exposes our next piece of hardware right here. It's just another 10mm headed mounting bolt. Once you have that bolt removed, ours is broken, that's common too because it's very rusted, we'll continue on underneath the front of the vehicle. Now from under the vehicle, we can see where our exhaust goes up and over our front subframe. As we make our way underneath the exhaust along that subframe and power steering rack, we can see that 10mm bolt that we can see from up top. As I mentioned, it's easier to gain access to from under here. Let's go ahead and remove that now. There's that mounting bolt. This line moves as it needs to. At this point, we're going to continue on towards the passenger side of the subframe, right along this area here. Now for this one, there's a 10mm bolt facing straight up and down. So let's just go ahead and remove that one. Now we can move this around. We still have one more mounting point that we need to gain access to. For this, we're going on the outboard side of the subframe. Now as we look along inside of our front wheel well, just in front of the front tire on the subframe, this is where we can see our next piece of mounting hardware. The bracket for the line actually goes straight forward, but our 10mm bolt is out in the open. Of course, there is a plastic shield just over this. You don't have to remove it. Just go ahead and gently press it out of position. Okay, there's that mounting bolt. This should be able to move now. And we'll make our way onto the front corner next. Now this shield is the one that we're going to be dislodging so we can make our way to the next portion of this hose and line. We're going to remove this push clip. Most push clips will be removed by gently removing the center to unlock it. After that, the outer portion should come out as well. This one's starting to come loose. Take hold of it. Now we should be able to take hold of this. We're going to carefully pull this down. We want to hold this out of position so we can make our way up in this area next. Now with that panel pulled away, we can see where our hose connects into our power steering cooler area. Now as we make our way in this area, we can see both of our power steering cooler hoses. We want the lower hose here. I'm using some long angled pliers so I can squeeze my clamp, and we'll pull this out of place. Continuing on, I'm going to take hold of the hose. I'm going to give it a slight twist, being careful not to cause any damage, and we should be able to slide this out of place. Keep in mind, there could be fluid in this area. Make sure you have a collection receptacle under here. There we are. Now, in your power steering line kit, you're going to find it came with a plastic protective cap. Let's go ahead and slide that onto the power steering cooler. There we are. That's on far enough that it prevents any leak from this area. Let's continue on with the removal of our line. As we make our way up along in between the subframe and the engine area, we can see where our power steering line is. Now it is completely dislodged. What you're going to find is it's fairly simple to go ahead and split in half and then remove it at that point. So for this, we can see where we have one area that we can easily separate a rubber hose from our metal line. Let's go ahead and carefully slide that clamp out of the way so we can remove the hose from the line itself. There we are. Slide that out of there. Now we'll just hold onto the line and the hose and carefully give them a twist to separate them. With that separated, let's start removing each half of the line. I'm going to start with the half that leads over towards my power steering rack on the driver's side there. So for this, we're just going to take hold of the line. We'll flex it as necessary so we can make our way along the other side of this line here. And now we can just go ahead and pull that right down and out of here. Keep in mind there could still be fluid inside of this. We're going to drain it out into our collection receptacle. As that's draining, let's continue on with the other portion of the line. Now for this portion of the line, you're going to be pulling it out through here, but you may also need to make your way along the front as well. there's that portion. Prior to installation of any brand new part, of course, we need to make sure we clean and inspect our mounting areas. We're starting along the driver's side on that power steering rack first. Now you can gain access through the front wheel well, or you can just make your way up and over the subframe, whatever's easiest for you. Just want to make sure there's no corrosion or any miscellaneous debris here. This looks good. We're all the way along the front corner of the vehicle. We have our protective plug on here. Let's just go ahead and remove that. The next thing we need to do is clean and inspect the power steering cooler port. We're just going to use a clean rag for this, no type of detergent. We don't want anything making its way into the power steering system. This looks good. Now after cleaning everything, it's time to have a quick look at our brand new power steering line. During the removal process, you remember that we had to split it in half, so we're going to do the same thing to the brand new line. Now we can see that we do have a flexible rubber hose directly in the center. We had removed this side of the rubber hose from the other portion of the line. You can do either side, whatever's easiest for you. And work this off of here. There we are. Just a quick inspection of that hose. Everything looks good here. Let's get this in the vehicle. Now let's focus on this portion of the line, the one with the fitting that goes to our power steering rack. Up along the top, we need to have a gasket. Your kit came with a brand new sealing O-ring. Just go ahead and take that and slide it into position. Make sure it's seated all the way around. Now at this point, we're going to carefully get this line up into place. We're bringing it up in here, but we have to make sure that the flexible hose portion of this makes its way up and over this hose as well. Now, of course, we do still have to attach our brackets, but first, let's make our way all the way over towards the power steering rack so we can install our fitting. All the way over towards the power steering rack, I'm wiggling my line as I start turning my fitting into the power steering rack. Now, this is important. We want to make sure the line fitting is properly going in and it's not cross-threading in any way. To tighten this, we're going to find that it's easiest from up inside the passenger compartment, but before getting up there, let's just finish up down here. So we're continuing on along the top of the subframe. We have a couple mounting brackets. For this portion of the line, you're going to find it comes in easiest from the front corner heading towards the rear. Bring it straight in. Slides up there. This portion goes in here. Now that we have the line over here, we're going to wait on installing our mounting bracket. We like to have this loose. Let's take hold of the other line. We're going to bring it over here. We'll align everything, press it together, and make sure we clamp it in tight. Just remove that protective cover. Now for this other line, it can move around as necessary. Now when you go to press this together, we want to make sure it's completely seated all the way up against this lip here. Press it in as far as possible, double check to make sure it does not slide out of place, and of course clamp it into the proper position. Get it down here. When you go to install the clamp, we want to make sure you can see hose on both sides of the clamp. If you're hanging off in any way, this might come loose on you. Just double check to make sure everything's seated. So now we're on the other side of the line. Now this is the area that goes onto the power steering cooler up along the front. We can see our washer fluid reservoir just above this area. We're taking the rubber hose and we're sliding it directly on there as far as possible. After that, you know what to do. Just go ahead and reinstall that clamp. Make sure you can see hose on both sides. We'll just double check to make sure we are properly seated. On the cooler line, you should feel a small ridge. The hose needs to be directly against it like this is here. Make sure that's seated. Now I'm double checking to make sure I can feel hose on both sides of the clamp. That's extremely important as I mentioned, and I am seated. I'm just going to go ahead and take hold of this, attempt to pull it out of position. It should not slide off of there. So as we follow our line along the outside of the subframe here, along the front corner, we can see where the next mounting bracket is. We could reinstall the lower panel here, but this is pretty much out in the open, so let's just go ahead and do this now. My mounting bolt was a little rusted, so I'm going to be replacing it. All right. Now we've got our mounting bolt in place. Just double check to make sure that's secured as well. Let's protect this area. Just bringing this up into the proper position. We have our push clip. You want to insert this in the unlocked position, lock it in by pressing in the center. Just double check to make sure that's secured as well. At this point, it's time to make our way back under the center of the front of the vehicle. Now, as we make our way under here, we have another mounting bracket. That's just going to go into a straight up and down port along the top of the subframe. We'll align this, start in the bolt, and snug that up as well. Now, since we cannot see this hole, it can be fairly difficult to get aligned. We'll just work this around until we do. Right there is bottomed out. Just take it a little bit further there. Double check to make sure that line's secured in place. Now we're making our way this way. Now as we make our way along the center rear of the subframe, we have one area here for a mounting point, and then we have another one heading towards the driver's side. As you remember, during the removal process for this area here, our bolt had broken, and that's common. So I'm just going to go ahead and use a wire tie in this area. Let's just double check to make sure that's secured on there. We'll make sure that's as tight as possible and trim off any excess on that wire tie. If you're using your bolt, just make sure it's nice and snug. Okay, we're making our way over. As we make our way over here, we have our mounting bolt. I've got this started in. Let's go ahead and snug it up. Okay, right there's bottomed out. Just take it a little bit further there. Double check to make sure the line's secured there as well. At this point, we're going to clean any mess while we're under here and make our way back up into the engine compartment. Now we're just going to take our AC hose, bring it down into the proper positioning here. Now, of course, you should have a small metal bracket that goes around it. You saw with the removal, it's in very poor condition. I'm going to start in one of my mounting bolts along this side, and of course we'll do the same on the other before tightening either. Now that bolt is started in, let's continue on to the next one here. Let's just double check to make sure that's secured in place. This feels good. Now we're all the way over at the line going into the power steering rack. We're going to be tightening this fitting using a 17 millimeter. There we go. Okay. That is nice and tight. You need to confirm that that's fully tightened. You do not want to have a power steering leak from this area. Now, just one last quick inspection in this area. Clean any mess as necessary. We can make our way out from behind here. We're going to fill the power steering fluid. For this, we're opening the power steering reservoir. We can continue on adding the manufacturer's specified fluid. As we add, we're going up to the line that you can see in the reservoir here. After that, we have to continue on removing any air from in the system. There's going to be a lot because we replaced that line. To do that, once you do have fluid in this, you're going to have both front wheels up off the ground, so they're not touching the ground. Put the key in the on position, and you're going to turn your steering wheel all the way in one direction, pause, all the way in the other. Repeat that process several times, and what you're going to find is air makes its way out, and fluid will make its way down, so you're going to have to continuously top this off. We'll we'll use a funnel. A little more here. I'm just going to rest this on top here so I can raise the front wheels as I mentioned, and we're going to be turning that steering wheel side to side several times. Now the whole point of this is to remove the air in the system, so obviously you need to make sure you're topping it off regularly. Okay, so let's just top this off one last time here. Now, once you feel as though you fully bled the system, the next thing we need to do is put the wheels back down on the ground so the full weight of the vehicle is on the ground. You're going to run the vehicle. Listen for an audible humming noise or a whining noise coming from this area. If you hear a whining noise, it's coming from the power steering pump. It means there's air trapped in the system. Aside from that, no noise is a good sign. Just double check for leaks, close the hood, and take your vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.